The stadium was ready. The tickets were selling. The world was counting down. For the first time in history, Asia was preparing to host the world's biggest football tournament. Millions of fans dreamed of packed stadiums, historic matches, and unforgettable moments. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. Then, on a quiet January morning in 1995, something happened that nobody expected. In less than a minute, an entire city was transformed. Roads changed, buildings swayed, transportation stopped. And suddenly, a question nobody wanted to ask began spreading across Japan. Could the World Cup still happen? Years of planning, billions of dollars, and the dreams of an entire nation suddenly felt uncertain. This is the remarkable true story of the earthquake that tested Japan's determination, and how one natural disaster almost changed the future of the FIFA World Cup forever. In the early 1990s, Japan was preparing for something extraordinary. Together with South Korea, the country was working toward hosting the 2002 FIFA World Cup. It would be the first World Cup ever held in Asia. For football fans across the continent, it represented a historic moment. New stadiums were being planned. Transportation systems were being improved. Cities across Japan were preparing to welcome visitors from every corner of the globe. Among those cities was Kobe, a beautiful port city known for its modern skyline, busy harbor, and vibrant culture. Few people knew that Kobe would soon become the center of one of the most important moments in modern Japanese history. On the morning of January 17, 1995, most residents were still asleep. The city was quiet. The streets were nearly empty. Then, at 5:46 a.m., the earth suddenly began to move. Within seconds, the peaceful morning became a scene of confusion. Across Kobe and surrounding regions, people rushed to understand what was happening. Transportation systems stopped, communication networks faced challenges, and large sections of the city experienced major disruptions. When daylight arrived, the scale of the situation became clear. Kobe had changed overnight. The earthquake became one of the most significant natural disasters in modern Japanese history. For many people around the world, the focus was on recovery and rebuilding. But for football officials, another concern quietly emerged. Kobe had been expected to play an important role in Japan's sporting future. The city was home to major infrastructure projects, and Japan was still hoping to host the World Cup. As recovery efforts began, some international observers wondered whether the country could continue its ambitious plans. Could stadium projects stay on schedule? Would transportation systems be ready? Could Japan still convince the football world that it was prepared to host the tournament? These questions appeared in newspapers and sports magazines around the globe. Some experts expressed concern. Others believed Japan would recover. Nobody knew which prediction would prove correct. What happened next surprised many people. Instead of abandoning its plans, Japan doubled down on rebuilding. Engineers went to work. Construction teams accelerated projects. City planners searched for solutions. Communities united around a common goal. The challenge was enormous, but so was the determination. Kobe itself became a symbol of resilience. Roads were repaired, public transportation returned, businesses reopened, and life gradually began moving forward. Visitors who returned to the city in the years that followed were often amazed by the transformation. Areas that had faced tremendous challenges were revitalized. Modern infrastructure emerged. New developments appeared. And confidence slowly returned. Meanwhile, preparations for the World Cup continued. Japan and South Korea officially won the right to host the 2002 tournament. It was a historic achievement. For the first time, two nations would co-host football's biggest event. And for Japan, the victory carried deeper meaning. The country had faced one of its most difficult challenges only a few years earlier. Yet, it had continued moving forward. As the opening match approached in 2002, fans from around the world arrived in Asia. They filled airports, hotels, restaurants, and stadiums. The tournament became a celebration of football. But behind every match was a story many visitors never fully realized. A story of perseverance. A story of rebuilding. A story of a nation that refused to let a disaster define its future. One of the most symbolic moments came when matches were played in Kobe, the same city that had faced enormous challenges only 7 years earlier was now welcoming football fans from every continent.
The images were powerful. Packed stadiums, cheering supporters, colorful flags, and a city that had transformed itself through determination and hard work. The World Cup was no longer in doubt. It had become a reality. Today, when people remember the 2002 FIFA World Cup, they often think of incredible goals, passionate supporters, and unforgettable matches. But behind the tournament was another remarkable story. The story of how a natural disaster once cast uncertainty over football's biggest stage.
And how a nation responded with resilience, innovation, and hope. The earthquake of 1995 did more than test buildings and infrastructure. It tested confidence, determination, and belief in the future. And when the opening whistle finally blew in 2002, it marked more than the start of a football tournament. It marked the triumph of a country that refused to give up on its dreams. Because sometimes the greatest victories don't happen on the pitch. Sometimes they happen long before the game even begins.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible true stories where history, sports, and human determination come together. And let us know in the comments, what's your favorite World Cup memory? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.